Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the HSS Liberty and watched the stars change as his ship completed its first jump through space. The long journey from Earth had finally brought them to this moment. After years of planning and building, humanity was about to meet other intelligent life in the galaxy. Lisa Carter looked up from her science station with wide eyes. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures all around us. There are hundreds of ships out there." Her voice carried both excitement and worry as she studied the readings on her screen. Ryan Phillips checked his navigation controls twice before speaking. "Sir, we're in the middle of what looks like a major shipping lane. These aren't just random vessels. This whole star system appears to be organized like some kind of galactic highway." Jake nodded and walked to the center of the bridge. His crew had trained for this moment, but nothing could have prepared them for the reality of finding such a busy part of space. "All stations prepare for first contact protocols. Amy, start broadcasting our peaceful intentions on all frequencies." Communications specialist Amy Foster began transmitting the messages that Earth's best minds had prepared: simple mathematical sequences, peaceful greetings in multiple human languages, and basic information about humanity's desire for friendship filled the radio waves around the Liberty. What the human crew did not know was that their arrival had already triggered panic across the galaxy. Deep in a monitoring station orbiting a nearby gas giant, alien technicians stared at their screens in horror. For the first time in over 1,000 years, an unknown ship had appeared in their space using faster-than-light travel. The duty officer, a tall gray being with 4 arms, immediately sent an emergency signal to the Galactic Confederation headquarters. The message was simple but terrifying to those who received it. "Unknown vessel detected. Technology unknown. Origin unknown. Requesting immediate intervention." Admiral Vexithai received the alert while reviewing patrol reports in his command center. The 6-legged insectoid creature had served the Confederation for over 2 centuries, and nothing in his experience had prepared him for this development. New species simply did not appear anymore. The galaxy had been mapped, cataloged, and controlled for millennia. He studied the initial reports with growing alarm. The human ship used a completely different method of faster-than-light travel than anything in their databases. While their technology appeared primitive compared to Confederation standards, it worked in ways that defied their understanding of physics. More disturbing were the intercepted communications from the unknown vessel. The Confederation's translation computers quickly decoded the human languages, and what they found sent shockwaves through the command structure. The aliens were broadcasting concepts that had been forbidden in civilized space for thousands of years. Words like freedom, democracy, and individual rights appeared repeatedly in the human transmissions. These were dangerous ideas that the Confederation had worked tirelessly to eliminate from galactic civilization. The very fact that an entire species still believed in such concepts represented a threat to everything they had built. On the bridge of the Liberty, Jake watched as several large alien vessels began moving toward their position. The ships were massive, easily 10 times the size of the Liberty, and their design was unlike anything human imagination had conceived. Smooth, flowing curves covered in what appeared to be organic patterns made them look more grown than built. "Captain," Lisa called out, "I'm detecting massive power buildups in those approaching vessels. Whatever they're planning, it requires enormous amounts of energy." Chris Sullivan, the Liberty's chief engineer, frowned at his readings. "Sir, I'm not liking what I'm seeing from their power signatures. Those look like weapon systems charging up." Jake felt his heart sink. Humanity's first contact was not going the way they had hoped. "Raise shields and prepare defensive systems, but do not target their vessels. We came here in peace, and we're going to maintain that position until they prove otherwise." Light years away, the Hegemony Council convened an emergency session. The ruling body of the Confederation consisted of representatives from 12 ancient species that had voluntarily surrendered their independence centuries ago in exchange for perfect order and safety. Chancellor Morden, a crystalline being whose thoughts moved at the speed of light, addressed the assembly. "Fellow councilors, we face a crisis that threatens the very foundation of our civilization. A species has appeared that still possesses the virus of free will." The council chamber filled with harmonious agreement. Free will was the greatest threat to galactic peace. It led to conflict, war, unpredictability, and chaos. Every civilized species had long ago accepted that individual thought and freedom were luxuries that intelligent beings could not afford. The contamination must be contained immediately, continued the Chancellor. If word spreads that such a species exists, it could destabilize thousands of worlds. The peace we have maintained for 3 millennia depends on absolute conformity. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would be classified as a level 5 threat to galactic stability. The penalty for such classification was immediate and total elimination. No traces of their culture, technology, or ideas could be allowed to survive. Back on the Liberty, the alien vessels had formed a perfect circle around the human ship. Their movements were precise and coordinated in a way that seemed almost mechanical. There was no randomness, no individual variation in their approach patterns. "Captain," Amy Foster reported, "I'm receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. The translation is coming through now." She paused as the computer processed the alien language. "They're demanding our immediate surrender, and the transfer of all crew to their vessels for processing." Jake's jaw tightened. "Processing? That doesn't sound good." "Open a channel, Amy." The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the alien flagship. The being that appeared was tall and elegant, with pale blue skin and large black eyes. When it spoke, its voice was completely emotionless. "Unknown vessel, you will comply with Confederation Protocol 7 Alpha. Your crew will be transferred to our facilities for neural adjustment and integration into galactic society. Your vessel and technology will be destroyed to prevent contamination." Jake stepped forward, his hands clenched at his sides. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth vessel Liberty. We come in peace, seeking friendship and trade with other intelligent species. We have no intention of surrendering to anyone." The alien's expression did not change. "Resistance is not permitted. Individual will leads to chaos and suffering. You will be made to understand this truth." The transmission ended abruptly and the alien vessels began closing in. Their weapon systems powered up with a high-pitched whine that the Liberty's sensors could detect even through the vacuum of space. Jake looked around at his crew. Each face showed determination mixed with fear, but not one of them suggested surrender. This was humanity's moment of truth, and they would face it as free beings, whatever the cost. The first alien weapon blast hit the Liberty like a hammer striking glass. The ship's shields flared bright blue and held, but warning alarms began screaming across every deck. Jake Morrison gripped his command chair as the vessel shook violently under the assault. Amy Foster worked frantically at her communications station, trying to establish any kind of dialogue with their attackers. Her fingers flew across the controls as she broadcast on every frequency humanity knew. "Captain, they're not responding to any of our attempts at communication. It's like they've already decided we're the enemy." Chris Sullivan's voice crackled over the intercom from engineering. "Shields are holding at 60%, but another hit like that will punch right through them. Whatever these aliens are using, it packs more punch than anything we've ever seen." The Liberty had been built for exploration, not war, but Earth's engineers had not been foolish. Hidden beneath the peaceful exterior were defensive systems that few alien races would expect from a species making first contact. Jake knew his ship had teeth, but he hoped he would not need to use them. "All crew, this is the captain," Jake announced shipwide. "We came here in peace, but these aliens have chosen to attack us without cause. We will defend ourselves and our mission. Prepare for combat." Beth Hamilton rushed through the engineering decks, her team working to reroute power from non-essential systems to the shields and weapons. The Liberty's power core hummed with increasing intensity as she pushed the ship's systems beyond their normal limits. Human engineering had always favored adaptability over pure efficiency, and now that choice might save their lives. On the bridge, Nick Davis brought the weapons systems online. The Liberty carried railguns that fired metal slugs at incredible speeds. Along with missile systems designed for both defense and offense, the weapons were simple compared to what the aliens possessed, but they were reliable and packed with human ingenuity. "Target the lead vessel's weapon systems," Jake ordered. "We're not here to start a war, but we won't go down without a fight." The Liberty's railguns opened fire, sending streams of metal projectiles toward the alien flagship. The slugs moved so fast they were invisible to the naked eye, but their impact was immediate and devastating. The alien vessel's elegant curves suddenly sprouted, gaping holes as the primitive human. Weapons tore through their advanced armor. The Confederation ships responded with coordinated precision that was both beautiful and terrifying to watch. They moved as if controlled by a single mind, their formation shifting to bring maximum firepower to bear on the small human vessel. Particle beams and energy weapons lit up space around the Liberty like a deadly light show. Alex Thompson led damage control teams through the ship's corridors as explosions rocked the vessel from side to side. Crew members worked together without panic, each person knowing their job and doing it without question. The human ability to function under pressure surprised even their enemies, who had expected the primitive aliens to collapse under the first serious attack. Dr. Kate Williams set up a medical station in the ship's main cargo bay as wounded crew members began arriving. Her hands worked steadily to treat burns and injuries while the battle raged around them. She had trained for combat situations, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of fighting for humanity's survival in deep space. The alien admiral watched the battle from his command center with growing confusion. His tactical computers had predicted an easy victory against the primitive vessel, but the human ship continued to fight with effectiveness that defied all logical analysis. The aliens moved in patterns that made no sense, using tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. "How are they still functioning?" the admiral demanded of his tactical officer. "Our weapons should have disabled their vessel in the first exchange." The tactical officer, a being with multiple eyes arranged around its head, studied the readings with obvious puzzlement. "Sir, they appear to be making modifications to their ship's systems in real time. Their power distribution keeps changing in ways our computers cannot predict." What the aliens did not understand was that human creativity extended to every aspect of their technology. Unlike Confederation vessels, which operated according to fixed programs and established protocols, human ships were designed to be modified and adapted during combat. Every human crew member could think independently and solve problems on the fly. Lisa Carter discovered this advantage while analyzing the alien weapon signatures. "Captain, I think I found a pattern in their attack sequence. Their ships are following a predetermined firing order. If we can disrupt their formation, we might be able to create gaps in their coverage." Jake nodded grimly. "Do it, Ryan. Prepare for emergency maneuvers. We're going to show these aliens that humans don't fight by their rules." The Liberty suddenly accelerated at an angle that should have been impossible for a ship of its design. Ryan Phillips had overridden the safety systems and pushed the engines beyond their recommended limits. The human vessel darted between the alien ships like a fish swimming through a net, its weapons firing continuously at targets of opportunity. Two Confederation vessels collided as they tried to track the Liberty's erratic movement. The alien formation, which had been perfect moments before, began to fall apart as individual ship commanders struggled to adapt to human unpredictability. Their computer-controlled responses were too slow to match the creativity of desperate humans fighting for their lives. The battle lasted for 2 hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The Liberty was outnumbered and outgunned, but it had proven something important to both sides. Humans would not surrender easily, and their way of thinking made them dangerous opponents even when facing superior technology. As the ship's systems finally began to fail, Jake made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Amy, prepare the emergency data burst. Everything we've learned about these aliens, all our tactical observations, everything goes back to Earth right now." The Liberty's communications array, damaged but still functional, transmitted a compressed data package toward Earth at faster than light speeds. The information contained detailed scans of alien technology, tactical assessments of their weapons and defenses, and most importantly, proof that the galaxy was controlled by beings who enslaved other species. "Data transmission complete. Captain," Amy reported as another alien weapon blast tore through the ship's hull. "Earth will know what happened here." Jake opened a ship-wide channel for what he knew would be his final message. "All hands, this is the captain. We came to the stars seeking friendship and found only tyranny. Our sacrifice will not be in vain. Earth will know the truth about this galaxy, and humanity will return to finish what we started here today." The final alien weapon blast penetrated the Liberty's core, but the ship's crew had already accomplished their real mission. The data burst racing toward Earth carried more than just technical information. It carried the story of humanity's first contact with galactic civilization, and the proof that freedom was worth fighting for. General Patricia Brooks sat in the emergency command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains when the Liberty's final transmission reached Earth. 6 months had passed since the ship's departure, and the silence had been growing more worrying with each passing day. Now she knew why no further. Messages had come, the data package that Jake, Morrison's crew had died to send home contained information that changed everything. Humanity thought they knew about the galaxy. Dr. Samuel Johnson worked around the clock with his research team to analyze the alien technology scans while military leaders across Earth prepared for the war that was surely coming. "General," Dr. Johnson said as he entered the briefing room with a stack of reports, "what we're seeing here is both terrifying and encouraging. These aliens have technology that's centuries ahead of ours in some areas, but they appear to lack the one thing that makes humans dangerous." Patricia looked up from the tactical displays that covered every wall of the room. "What's that, Doctor?" "Creativity," Johnson replied simply. "Everything in their technology follows rigid patterns. Their ships, their weapons, even their tactics all operate according to fixed rules. They've traded innovation for perfection, and that might be their weakness." Admiral Paul Carter joined the conversation from his position at the communication station. "We've been analyzing their battle formations from the Liberty's sensor logs. Their movements are predictable once you understand the pattern. Jake's crew figured that out during the fight, which is why they lasted as long as they did." The news of humanity's first contact had spread across Earth like wildfire, but not in the way anyone had expected. Instead of celebration and wonder, the revelation that the galaxy was controlled by slavers who attacked peaceful explorers filled humans with rage and determination. Every nation on Earth had united for the first time in history with a single purpose: preparing for war. Dr. Mary Thompson led the crash program to improve human faster-than-light technology using the data from the Liberty. Working in laboratories that never slept, her team reverse-engineered alien systems and combined them with human engineering principles. The result was a new generation of ships that could travel faster and farther than anything humanity had built before. "We've solved the power consumption problem," she reported to the Defense Council. "The aliens use a brute force approach that requires massive energy generators. We've found a way to do the same thing, with a fraction of the power by using rotating field, harmonics instead of static field projection." Dr. Carl Martinez had taken the alien weapon data and created something the Confederation had never seen. Human weapons designers approached the problem differently than their galactic counterparts. Instead of building bigger and more powerful guns, they focused on speed, accuracy, and adaptability. "The aliens rely on overwhelming firepower," Martinez explained to a room full of military officers. "They expect their enemies to stand still and trade shots until one side breaks. Our new weapons are designed for hit-and-run tactics, precision strikes, and rapid target switching." Meanwhile, the surviving crew of the Liberty faced a very different kind of battle in their alien prison. Alex Thompson had been promoted to senior prisoner after Jake Morrison's death, and he spent every waking moment planning resistance activities. The aliens had tried to use their mental conditioning technology on the humans, but something unexpected happened. Dr. Kate Williams discovered that human brains were wired differently than other species in the galaxy. The neural pathways that allowed for creativity and independent thought were so deeply embedded in human psychology that alien conditioning technology could not remove them without causing permanent brain damage. "They can torture us and they can kill us," Kate told the other prisoners during one of their secret meetings, "but they cannot make us into slaves like they have done to the rest of the galaxy. Our minds simply do not work that way." The aliens' frustration with their human captives grew daily. Every attempt to integrate the prisoners into galactic society failed. The humans refused to accept that individual freedom was a disease that needed to be cured. They continued to act independently, make personal choices, and resist all forms of mental control. President Helen Wright addressed the United Nations in a speech that would be remembered throughout human history. Standing before representatives of every nation on Earth, she spoke words that crystallized humanity's response to the galactic threat. "We have learned that we are not alone in the universe," she said, "but we have also learned that freedom is rarer than we ever imagined. While we prepared for first contact with wonder and hope, the galaxy prepared to enslave us. They have made a terrible mistake. They have attacked the one species that will never willingly submit to tyranny." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Volunteers flooded military recruitment centers faster than they could be processed. Factories that had produced civilian goods retooled for military production. Universities redirected their research toward developing new technologies for the coming war. "Commander," Tony Harris supervised the construction of humanity's first true war fleet in orbital, shipyards that worked 24 hours a day. The new vessels combined the best of human and alien technology, but with a crucial difference. Every system was designed to be modified and adapted during combat by human crews. The aliens build ships like they build their society, Harris explained to his construction teams. Everything has its place and its purpose, and nothing ever changes. We're building ships that can grow and adapt as the battle develops. Colonel Janet Price established training programs for space combat that pushed human soldiers to their limits and beyond. Unlike the rigid formations used by alien forces, human tactics emphasized flexibility, independent thinking, and rapid adaptation to changing circumstances. The training was brutal, but necessary. Human soldiers learned to fight in zero gravity, to make split-second decisions without waiting for orders, and to work together while maintaining their individual creativity. Every exercise was designed to prepare them for fighting an enemy that outnumbered them thousands to one. As Earth prepared for war, something unexpected began happening across the galaxy. News of the human resistance had somehow spread despite the Confederation's attempts to suppress it. On worlds that had not seen rebellion in centuries, enslaved populations began to remember what freedom meant. The Veltar species on Kepler 442b started their first uprising in 800 years. The aquatic Zephyrani destroyed their genetic modification, centers on Europa Prime. Even species that had been modified to remove aggressive tendencies began showing signs of independent thought and action, the Confederation leadership. Watched these developments with growing alarm. The human infection was spreading faster than they had thought possible. Every day brought new reports of unrest and rebellion on worlds that had been peaceful for millennia. Chancellor Morden convened another emergency session of the Hegemony Council. The contamination is spreading beyond our ability to contain it, he reported. The very knowledge that a free species exists has destabilized our control over hundreds of worlds. The decision was unanimous and final. Humanity had to be completely destroyed before their ideas could spread further. Every human world would be sterilized, every trace of their culture eliminated, and every memory of their existence erased from galactic records. But Earth was ready for them. 6 months after the Liberty's destruction, humanity struck back with a force that shook the foundations of galactic civilization. Admiral Robert Davis stood on the bridge of the HSS Defiance as 50 human warships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Confederation Outpost Zeta 7. The aliens had expected Earth to cower and surrender. Instead, they found an angry species armed with improved technology and an unbreakable will to fight. Captain Linda Hayes piloted the flagship through the opening attack run while Chief Tactical Officer Gary Wilson coordinated the assault from his weapons station. The human fleet moved like a pack of wolves, each ship operating independently but working toward the same goal. Their approach patterns defied every established principle of space warfare that the Confederation had developed over 3,000 years. The alien defenders responded according to their programming, forming defensive formations that had protected their outposts for centuries. But human ships did not behave like civilized vessels. They used micro-jumps to appear behind enemy lines, coordinated attacks from unexpected angles, and changed tactics faster than alien computers could process the new information. Target their communication arrays first, Davis ordered from the Defiance's command center. Cut off their ability to coordinate, and they become sitting ducks. The battle lasted only 3 hours. But those 3 hours announced to the galaxy that humanity had arrived as a military force. The Confederation's perfect defensive systems crumbled under attacks that followed no logical pattern. Human weapons that should have been inferior punched through alien armor, using targeting strategies that no computer had ever calculated. Colonel Steve Anderson led the first human marine assault in galactic history as his troops boarded the main Confederation command station. The aliens had never faced soldiers who could think independently while working as a team. Every human marine adapted to changing conditions without waiting for orders, turning what should have been a difficult boarding action into a devastating rout. Secure the prison levels first, Anderson commanded as his troops spread through the station's corridors. Intelligence reports suggest they're holding members of other species against their will. What the Marines found in the alien prison levels changed their understanding of the galaxy forever. Hundreds of beings from dozens of different species were held in cells designed to break their will and reshape their minds. Many had been imprisoned for years simply because they had shown signs of independent thought. Commander Julie Baker's engineering teams captured intact Confederation technology during the assault, providing Earth with detailed information about alien industrial capabilities. The humans worked quickly to download data files and strip useful equipment before the outpost's self-destruct systems could activate. "Admiral," Baker reported over the communication channel, "we're finding evidence that this outpost serves dozens of star systems. The scale of their operation is much larger than we estimated. The victory at Zeta 7 proved that human tactics could defeat superior alien technology. But more importantly, it proved that the Confederation was not invincible." News of humanity's triumph spread through underground networks that the alien authorities could not control. On world after world, enslaved populations began to stir with hope they had not felt for generations. The Veltar species on Kepler 442b launched their first major rebellion in 8 centuries, using weapons and tactics they learned from intercepted human communications. The aquatic Zephrani on Europa Prime destroyed their genetic modification centers and declared independence from Confederation rule. Even the peaceful Keth Mori began passive resistance campaigns that disrupted industrial production across their home system. Dr. Elizabeth Foster studied captured aliens during the aftermath of the battle and made a discovery that changed humanity's understanding of their enemy. Most Confederation species retained the genetic potential for independent thought and creativity. The hegemony's control was imposed through technology, conditioning, and social pressure rather than biological modification. These beings were not born as slaves, Foster reported to Earth's leadership. They were made into slaves by a system that convinced them freedom was dangerous. If we can break that conditioning, we might gain allies instead of just liberating prisoners. Chancellor Morden received the news of Zeta 7's fall while reviewing intelligence reports in his crystalline tower on the Confederation capital world. The defeat was more than a military setback. It represented the first crack in a system of control that had maintained galactic peace for 3 millennia. "The contamination is spreading faster than our worst projections," he reported to the emergency session of the Hegemony Council. 17 systems have reported incidents of rebellion or unrest since news of the human victory reached their populations. The council chamber filled with harmonious agreement as the ancient rulers faced a crisis unlike anything in their collective memory. Species that had been peaceful for centuries were suddenly remembering concepts like freedom and self-determination. The very foundation of galactic civilization was being challenged by ideas that should have been extinct. "The humans must be eliminated completely," declared Councillor Zephron, whose aquatic species had been among the first to submit to Confederation rule. "Every trace of their culture and technology must be destroyed before their infection spreads beyond our ability to contain it." The decision was made to mobilize the entire Confederation fleet for a final assault on Earth and its colonies. Over 10,000 vessels would be assembled for the largest military operation in galactic history. No trace of humanity would be allowed to survive. But the aliens had underestimated how quickly human influence could spread. On the prison world where the Liberty's crew was held, Alex Thompson had spent months organizing resistance activities among prisoners from dozens of species. The humans had taught their fellow inmates that cooperation did not require surrendering individual identity. "Freedom is not about being alone," Thompson explained to a gathering of alien prisoners during one of their secret meetings. "It's about choosing to work together while remaining true to yourself." "That's something these Confederation fools will never understand," Dr. Kate Williams had been using her medical knowledge to help other prisoners maintain their mental independence despite alien conditioning attempts. Her work revealed that most species in the galaxy still possessed the neural structures needed for creative thought. They had simply been trained not to use them. The rebellion spread beyond the prison world as former inmates escaped and carried their new understanding of freedom to other systems. Each liberated world became a beacon of hope for others still under Confederation control. The galaxy was remembering what it meant to be free, and that memory was impossible to suppress. Earth's intelligence networks reported massive fleet movements throughout Confederation space as the aliens prepared for their final assault. But humanity was no longer fighting alone. Rebel groups on hundreds of worlds were ready to strike at the same time, turning the Confederation's own infrastructure against them. The stage was set for the greatest battle in galactic history, and for the first time in 3,000 years the outcome was not predetermined. Freedom had returned to the galaxy, and it would not go quietly into the darkness again. The final battle for galactic freedom began in the Andromeda Transit Zone, where Admiral Robert Davis led humanity's combined fleet against the full might of the Confederation Armada. 10,000 alien vessels filled space like a deadly cloud, while only 300 human ships stood against them. The odds seemed impossible, but Admiral Davis knew that numbers alone did not win wars. Captain Susan Miller commanded the destroyer HSS Freedom, as the human fleet prepared for what many believed would be their last battle. Her ship carried experimental technology that Dr. Elizabeth Foster's team had developed after studying captured alien prisoners. The discovery that most galactic species retained the capacity for independent thought had led to humanity's greatest weapon yet. All ships. "This is Admiral Davis," came the voice over the fleet communication system. "Today we fight not just for Earth but for every enslaved mind in this galaxy. Remember, we are not trying to destroy these beings. We are trying to free them." Lieutenant Colonel Wayne Parker worked frantically in the Cyber Warfare Center aboard the flagship as his team prepared to launch their secret weapon. The virus they had created was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of destroying alien computer systems, it was designed to break the conditioning programs that kept entire species enslaved. The Confederation fleet approached in perfect formation, their movements coordinated by a central command system that had controlled galactic warfare for millennia. Chancellor Mordoon watched from his command vessel as the final solution to the human problem began. In a few hours, the last free species in the galaxy would be extinct, but the aliens had never faced an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. As the two fleets closed to weapons range, the human ships suddenly scattered in dozens of different directions. Some vessels accelerated toward the alien formation while others retreated at high speed. The chaotic movement pattern confused every tactical computer in the Confederation. Fleet Captain Andrew Clark led a squadron of human destroyers in a desperate charge toward the alien flagship while commander. Rachel Torres took her bomber group on a wide flanking maneuver. Each human ship captain made independent tactical decisions based on the developing battle situation rather than following a predetermined plan. The cyber warfare attack began as soon as the first shots were fired. Parker's virus spread through the Confederation's communication networks like wildfire, carried by the same signals the aliens used to coordinate their fleet. Within minutes, conditioning programs across hundreds of ships began to malfunction. For the first time in centuries, alien crew members began to think independently. The rigid formation that had seemed so perfect moments before started to fall apart as individual ship commanders questioned their orders. Some vessels continued to fight, while others simply stopped in confusion as their crews struggled with thoughts and feelings they had never been allowed to experience. Captain Alex Thompson watched the battle from the bridge of a captured Confederation vessel where he and the other Liberty survivors had staged their escape. Dr. Kate Williams worked beside him, using her medical knowledge to help newly awakened alien crews understand what was happening to their minds. "They're not our enemies," Thompson announced over the captured ship's communication system. "They're victims just like the prisoners we've been helping. Our job is to free them, not destroy them." The virus spread beyond the battle zone as liberated alien vessels began transmitting the freedom signal to their homeworlds. Across the galaxy, conditioning centers shut down and genetic modification programs ceased operation. Species that had not experienced independent thought for generations suddenly remembered what it meant to choose their own destiny. The tide of battle turned when Admiral Vexthai, the Confederation's greatest military commander, broke free from his conditioning and realized what his people had become. The insectoid warrior had served the system faithfully for 2 centuries, but the virus had awakened memories of his species' pre-conquest culture. "All ships, this is Admiral Vexthai," he broadcast on Confederation frequencies. "I order you to cease hostilities immediately. We have been fighting to preserve slavery while calling it peace. The humans are not our enemies. They are our liberators." The battle did not end with a great explosion or dramatic victory. Instead, it faded away as ship after ship stopped fighting and began the process of rediscovering freedom. Some Confederation vessels continued to resist, but their numbers dwindled as more crews broke free from their mental chains. Chancellor Morden's flagship was one of the last to fall. The Crystalline being fought desperately to maintain the old order, but his own crew eventually turned against him. The creature that had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years was captured by his former subjects who now understood the true cost of their perfect peace. The victory celebration was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. On thousands of worlds, newly freed populations celebrated their liberation while learning how to think and choose for themselves. The process was not easy, and many species struggled with concepts they had not experienced for generations. President Helen Wright addressed the newly formed Galactic Liberation Council from Earth's orbital station. Representatives from hundreds of species attended the session either in person or through faster-than-light communication links. For the first time in 3 millennia, the galaxy's future would be decided by free beings making voluntary choices. "We did not come to the stars seeking to conquer or rule," Wright said to the assembled delegates. "We came seeking friendship and found slavery instead. Today we offer every species in this galaxy the same thing we wanted for ourselves: the right to choose your own path among the stars." The formation of the Free Worlds Coalition took months of careful negotiation as former slave species learned how to participate in democratic governance. Some worlds chose to remain isolated while others formed new alliances based on mutual benefit rather than conquest. The diversity of choices reflected the galaxy's rediscovered freedom. Dr. Elizabeth Foster established the Galactic Rehabilitation Institute to help species recover from centuries or millennia of conditioning. The work was slow and difficult, but each success proved that freedom was not a human trait but a universal right that had been stolen from an entire galaxy. Admiral Davis was elected as the first Supreme Commander of the Coalition Defense Force, but his role was very different from the dictatorial positions that had ruled the galaxy before. His authority came from the voluntary cooperation of free species, working together to protect their shared liberty. The war that began with one human ship seeking peaceful contact had ended with the liberation of an entire galaxy. Humanity had not conquered the stars. Instead, they had taught the galaxy to remember what it meant to be free. The universe would never be the same, and for the first time in 3,000 years, that was exactly what it needed.